Hello and welcome back to the BSG Automotive channel. Today we're going to show you how to replace the rear AC evaporator core, which is a very common leak spot, on your 2001-2006 Chevy Tahoe. Now the procedure is actually very simple. A bunch of panels you got to pop off, a bunch of screws to get the panel apart back to the HVAC box, and then it's right there. It's really easy to do. It's just labor intensive getting all these little panels off to get access to it. Now, if your system has refrigerant still in it, did not leak all the way out yet, you are going to have a qualified automotive shop suck the system down, get the refrigerant out of it, recover it, and then refill it at the end. But in between, the labor-intensive part of pulling everything apart to change it out, you can do yourself. We're going to walk you through it today. Let's get started. First things first, make sure your system is sucked down to a vacuum, or at least to atmospheric pressure, 0 psi, so we can safely disconnect the lines back there under the rear quarter panel. The connections to suck the system down are deep up inside of here. You can see the high side right there and the low side. They're on the same line, separated by the FOT. That's where you connect your hoses up and suck the system down. Okay, let's get started. Over here on the passenger side rear quarter panel, you're going to slide underneath here, okay, and look up inside of here. You'll see a bunch of wire harnesses and stuff like that, but what you'll also see is the two AC lines coming into the rear evap. They're right there, the smaller one, the thicker one. There's a 13mm nut holding those lines to the rear evap that we're taking out of here. Let me try to get you up in here and show you what I'm talking about. You can see they're right there, okay? Two 13mm nuts. Take those out and then pull the lines down a little bit so we can disconnect them from the evap. Now what you're gonna also wanna do while you're in here is, again, it's kind of hard to show you up in here, but there's 10mm nuts right there, and over there you'll see two of them right here. And what those do is secure the HVAC box back here to the the body, the floor of the vehicle. So while we're down here, let's take those out too, so the HVAC box is loose, and then we can go up inside the cab and do some clean work. All right, once the lines are disconnected down below and those two nuts, we can go ahead and start taking off the interior trim panel back here on the passenger right-hand side. Now there's going to be a couple attachment points like this right here for the net back here that holds it on. There's a push pin right here, and then of course the trim piece right here we're going to take off. This one's very simple. You simply grab it, okay, and you just start lifting up on it all the way along. And we'll get that out of the way. Then we're going to take this off next. Now sometimes these are pretty tight, and you're going to need pliers just to get it started. Be careful, you don't want to mar it up too much. And then it'll simply come right off. And then right down here is a push pin. What you want to do is get behind here with a trim tool like this. And we're just going to kind of pull out a little bit and then help it out without actually prying against the plastic. Put that to the side. Okay. And then you'll see the whole thing just starts coming out on here. Now the rest of the fasteners on here are hidden. You just kind of keep pulling on it, and they're pushed to clip type fasteners. What we got to do first though is take off the D pillar and the C pillar trim panels here. And these are pretty simple. We're going to take them off by pulling them off real quick, and then we're going to let them just kind of flop in the breeze while we sneak this out and underneath. So this one, it's all hidden fasteners, and it does overlap this piece down here. So we're just going to get up inside of here and start popping those, and once you get it out like that, you can do the rest by hand. Just keep going up, and you'll feel them, like right here I can feel it's holding, so we'll concentrate on pulling right there with my hand, okay, and it just starts coming out. And the same thing over here. Now this one right here is also held up top here. You'll see it. It's kind of sneaking past, and then it's got a speaker in there, which apparently fell out. Kind of clips into there. We'll take that out. And then there's a connector right here for the door locks. So we'll just take that out so we can get the whole thing out of here. And there's just simply a locking tab on here. Now over here for the C-pillar trim panel, again, it's all hidden clip fasteners except for one right here, which is a 7mm bolt. We'll simply pull that out, put it to the side, and then you just start going through, popping it up same way as the D-pillar over there. And this one we're not going to pull off all the way because of the belt webbing here and all that. We're just going to pull it off and let it hang to the side. And that looks a little something like this. You can see it just pops right off of here. Be careful with it, give it a little wiggle like that, and it helps it come out that way. On this side, same thing. Oh, there we go. You can see already we're starting to get it out of the way here. Now at this point, this whole thing's just going to come right off of here, watch. You just keep pulling on it, okay? See? It's just a bunch of push fasteners. Get that out of the way. We're going to pull this out enough so that we can get to the connector behind here for the power point back here. And this whole panel goes bye-bye. And there it is. There's the entire HVAC case. It's all right out in the open at this point. What we're going to have to do is start disassembling some of this. We can tilt it to the side and start taking out the evaporator that's buried inside of there. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is start detaching this main wire harness from the HVAC case and then disconnecting these branch outs like this right here. And that way the components and the wire harness on the HVAC box can come with it when we pull the whole unit out. So we're just going to disconnect them from the main harness right now. Pull that one off of there. And that. Like so. And then up top here, it just pushes into the HVAC case a couple points along the way, and we'll start loosening all that. Now there are two 7mm bolts up here that bolt the HVAC case to the body. Whoa. Take those out, and you'll see already the whole thing's ready to come out. Let's get the main harness detached from right here, and then let's go ahead and detach this connector right here. That one's going to the main harness too, I'm pretty sure. It's buried behind there, so we'll disconnect that and keep that out of the way. At this point, take the harness, this main harness, and just tuck it behind here. Okay? Everything goes behind here. Alright, let's go ahead and remove this cover right here that covers the coolant lines going to the heater core. They're also 7mm. So just pull those off. And this whole thing should kind of slide off of here. There we go. Alright, next let's get this blower motor out of the way and some of these other components. The idea here is to not drain the cooling system for the heater core. What we're going to do is split the case while it's still in the vehicle here to get that evaporator out of there. So we're going to start taking some of these components off of here. So let's start with the blower motor. Disconnect the electrical on there. There's a push pin right here for the harness. Okay. Some stuff like that. And we'll just follow the harness down to wherever it's attached, so we can just pull these pieces off and start taking it apart. These actuators, a couple 7mm bolts. Whoa. At this point, it should just pop out of there. It's just kind of stuck. Get the breather off of there, whichever side it comes off easier. And we'll pull it straight out so we don't damage the squirrel cage on there. Let's pull this out next. This is going to be your little resistor assembly right here. If any of your speeds are missing back here, it's because of the resistor card. So we got all that disconnected. The last thing we got to disconnect is over here. So let's disconnect that off of there. Remember, it goes on this pipe right here, and we'll take this whole harness out of the way. Now what's nice on here is that there isn't really screws or any heat molding that keeps the case halves together. It's just these little clips right here, and they're actually pretty easy to get off. The hardest part about them is that they usually fly off of there when you're looking for them. So we'll just get them off of there, keep them in a pile, and just go all the way around to wherever you see them. Again, the idea here is to split this top and bottom and side to side here by pulling these clips. You can see I'm starting to pull it apart now. So let's follow it around. It should be fairly easy to find the clips, considering the case is black and the clips are nice bright silver. There it goes. Told you. Gotta really watch these. Okay. There's a 7mm screw right here, holding the case halves together. Oh yeah. Again, I don't work on, Chevys and VWs and Audis and stuff like that every day. But the basic ideas of how all this stuff is made from manufacturer to manufacturer is basically the same. It just looks different. Okay, they're all put together basically the same. So you can use the same principles to fix many cars. Let's pull this actuator off right here. Which I'm guessing is a temperature blend, considering it's by the heater core here. So we'll pull that off. And let's try to sneak this out the best we can. If we can work it out a little bit and then work this back a little bit and just help it out, we should have no problem taking this apart. Let's pull this actuator off also. Again, all 7mm screws, nice and easy. Keep it to the side. Down here, there's another bolt that's holding the case halves together. Okay. What we're going to try to do is start separating the case halves at this point. Some more clips back here. Let's go ahead and get this ductwork off right here. It's got a little plastic tab up top here. And once that one comes past, it should come right off. There we go. Another clip back here. Oh yeah, it's separating now. Another bolt right here. Okay. Oh yeah. It's coming up and off. And look at that. Oh man. All that's the dye inside of there. It's just leaking so bad inside of there. I shot quite a bit of dye in there when I did the diagnosis. So let's go ahead and get this ductwork off that goes to the ceiling and feeds the ceiling, because right now it's coming off pretty good, but this is holding us up, and so is the heater core. Quite literally, if we can get these halves off over here, get them to the side, the evap's right there, okay, and it's standing straight up, so it'll come, you know, right out. So let's get this ductwork off right here. There's a screw right there that holds it in place. But otherwise, they usually, you know, they're pretty flexible and they'll come right out. There's nothing inside of here really damaged. See how it came up right up like that? So you can go backwards like that, or you can go the other way. And just get them separated that way. I'm just going to start separating the case halves here. Now there is foam right here. You can either peel it back, which I'm going to try to do. There we go. The foam right there. Or you can just make a little slit on the other side. It's like so. Okay. We are definitely coming apart up top here. Let's go over here in the center. Now down here there's another one of those clips, okay? So we can go ahead and get that off. And then it appears there's a 7mm screw down there. Pretty much after this little screw's out, it's looking like we'll be free. Start separating these case halves on here. Now like I said, it moves up and down, so we can use a gear wrench or 1/4 inch ratchet and pull it out. Again, it's 7mm for the head size on there. Alright, it appears the whole thing's loose, but there is another hidden bolt right here. Well, it's not so hidden, but unless you know where to look. Oh, look at that. Look at that. The whole thing comes apart now. So let's go ahead and separate it. Like so. This whole thing come off to the side. We can go on the other side and work on the evap. Now what I want to do is slide this past, if at all possible, and get this plastic out of here. We're just going to maneuver this. Get you out of here without damaging the heater core. And of course it's going to be stuck on everything as it goes through. Just be patient so you don't damage anything. Look at that. There's tons of room in here now to get to the actual evaporator. Now at this point we should be able to lift the box a little bit like this, and you can see I'm pushing this way with the evap. You can push this back. It's all very flexible. Like so. At that point, you're just going to kind of want to wiggle it out of there. Wow, this one was leaking pretty bad. Now you can see the green down in here. Now once your evaporator's out of the vehicle, you want to do a quick check of it to make sure it's actually leaking. I'm sure you already identified it, but it's a good idea to go over it and make sure it was actually leaking on there. Now what you're looking for is this little piece of foam right here to just be soaked in PAG oil and dye, as you see on mine. If it's leaking that bad that you noticed it, there's going to be either PAG oil or dye in my case. And the reason being is as the refrigerant leaks out of there, it's going to pull the PAG oil with it, and in my case, dye. So you can see, it's very obvious this sucker was leaking pretty bad. Now there is one thing I want to give you a tip on that I did not show, and that was the fight to get the high side line off right here, okay? The low side line, you know, pretty much comes off pretty easy. That's the thicker one. Where it's a little skinny line, this one was a fight to get it off there. And the reason being is there's a peanut fitting on there. It looks like a peanut, like a figure 8. And one side is a hole for this stud to come through to secure it to this block right here. And the other side is where the refrigerant actually passes through and compresses an O-ring right here, okay? The peanut fitting slides over it real nice and close straight from the factory, okay? So whenever there's corrosion built up inside of here, it's gonna bond it. So what I had to do, and the one thing I want to tell you not to do, is don't grab that line, that thin little line sticking off of here, and start wiggling it and using it for leverage. It's not going to work and end up breaking the line. What you want to do is get underneath that peanut fitting with a cat claw like this, and I'll link to this stuff down below, and you kind of help pry it up while you're pulling it off the peanut itself with a pair of channel locks. A little bit of twisting, and I'm not going to do too much, and then wiggling it off as you're prying. Now in my case, it was pretty extreme, so I had to actually heat up the stud itself to break the bond between that and the peanut fitting. And then I also, I had to use an air hammer actually in the end. So I broke the bond with plenty of heat on there, and what I used was a MAP gas torch like that, and the reason being is it burns a lot hotter than propane and gets the job done while still being safe. So once the bond was broken, I used an air hammer with a hammerhead on there, a flat hammerhead that looks a little something like this, and I vibrated it through. Now you don't need to go full blast with the air hammer. What we're doing is the bond's already broken, but it's still pretty tight in there. So what you're doing with the air hammer is you're putting it on there, and you're just, you know, throttling the air hammer, and you're vibrating it out, because it'll still stick in there, but if you vibrate it, it'll kind of push it right out of there. And that's the way to get them out without damaging the line. Now what I do at this point is push the box back down through the hole, because we pulled it out partially, and you know, just start cleaning out the entire area here. It should be just this point right here and below. So I'll get most of it out at first, and then I use brake cleaner to wash this whole thing out of here, so it's all clean going back together. Now at this point, the rest of the procedure is pretty much the reverse of removal. It's a very simple procedure. You already took it all apart. You know how it all came apart. So it's the same way going back together. In the end, we'll come back to it and recharge the system, and that's about it. Okay, real quick note going back together here. When you're putting this case half back on, getting it all lined up in there, you want to make sure that you line up your doors that are inside there too. There's like a dual temperature door system here, and this one will come right through this little nub right here for the door, but this lower one right here is a real pain to get in there. So what I had to do is pull the heater core all the way out, let it just dangle here, and then get in there, grab the door, pick it up a little bit so it'll line up with the slot. Now once that's done, what you want to do, let me get you in here, is grab this door and move it back and forth. It should be free moving like that, and then that shaft down there also should be moving because they're connected together in the back side and side there. Okay, that one's good. Now over here there's another door right here, and that's for the air mode door. And this one's really simple to make sure it's in the right place, but just make sure this one does the same thing. Moves freely in there, and it's all lined up. All right, so what do you guys think? I mean, like I said, it's very simple, a bunch of small little panels and screws and stuff like that. Even me, you know, a Ford guy could do it on a GM product like this because it is very simple. It's all open back there. Now, of course, once everything's back together, we're good to go. The doors work fine. Everything's back together. You want to take it to your qualified automotive shop so they can suck it down to a vacuum, get all the air out of there, non-condensables, moisture, all that stuff out of there, and then refill it with the proper charge level. And they should probably add at least an ounce, if not 2 ounces, of PAG oil back into there to replenish the AC core back there. Besides that, the hard part, you did it. You did it yourself, and you just have to have a shop recover and refill it at the end. In between, we did it. We did it ourselves, and we saved tons of money using high-quality GM parts compared to the aftermarket. That's what I would use if I were you and you're contemplating the aftermarket and the GM part. I use the GM part on this vehicle because I want it to be the most trouble-free repair possible for this customer going into the future. Plus, it included that new TXV and sensing bulb on there, so everything's all new. Okay? That's all for now. I'll see you guys next time. Stay cool.